What has two thumbs, a massive frame, and enough strength to swat away hundreds of puny enemies? This guy. But also this guy. The giant is a must-have monster for any greenskin army. He costs 1600 gold and brings a lot to the table, before promptly eating everything that he just brought to the table. He has a massive health pool of around 8000 HP, and he does have a big swinging club that deals 530 damage per hit, of which 400 pierces right through armor. He causes terror while having amazing morale himself, so you're looking at quite a unique addition to the Greenskin roster, considering that most of the roster in the Greenskins tends to rout pretty quickly. The giant swings his club around and knocks down tons of enemies with each hit. While they're down, the giant picks up an unlucky soul and splats him onto the ground, which is very satisfying. The giant's giant swing makes him very useful at dealing with either low or high tier infantry units. Them swarming the giant isn't going to do anything against his large health pool, and his club will destroy dozens of them with each swing. I found that keeping the giant on the flanks of your army is a very effective way of using him. That way he can join your cavalry as you circle around the enemy and clobber their backline, while your infantry hold from the front. If the enemy responds to your flank attack with their own cavalry, you can use your cavalry to stop them before they get to your giant and set him loose to munch through the rear of the enemy infantry line. Keeping a giant on the flanks is also useful because it establishes a clear target for your enemy, so he will most likely focus his attention on your giant rather than go around with his cavalry and try to hit the rear of your low morale infantry. Having a giant in the center could be a viable strategy too, but trying to punch through the middle of an enemy army is going to be much harder for you, considering that the enemy lord and other reinforcing units will most likely be stationed behind the center of the enemy army, especially if the enemy has missile units. And this brings us to one of the giant's biggest weaknesses, his lack of armor. That and the fact that he's like 11 feet tall and walks like a tree makes him the single biggest target for any enemy archers or riflemen. You don't usually see skirmish troops posted on the flanks of an army because that's usually where the cavalry is, and enemy cavalry would eat up skirmishers for breakfast, which is why you should keep your giant on the flanks, away from the pesky arrows which will be in the center. While the giant is a no-brainer for the Greenskins to bring against the dwarves, vampire counts, and warriors of chaos, Britannia and to a lesser extent Empire armies will more than likely bring some skirmishers who will have no trouble in putting down our massive friend. In the current state of Total War Warhammer, the giant also provides two extra boosts that a greenskin army really benefits from. One is the fact that the giant never quits clubbing people, that is. So even if your general dies, you still have a sliver of hope at winning the battle because the giant will most likely still be alive and not rout. Another is that the giant is a prime target for single target spells from the enemy. The enemy can see him from a mile away and they know that he's dangerous, so if they were going to be on the receiving end of his club, they would more than likely be tempted to use Spirit Leech or Fate of Buna or Magic Missile the giant, which means that they would have less mana or Winds of Magic to try and snipe your general with. If a giant is sacrificed to save your general, that is a massive boost for your army and your odds of winning, as your general will most likely be safe from the spirit cheese that was instead used to kill the giant. While the giant is more than capable on his own, he can be a lot more effective if a Night Goblin Shaman was to buff him with Sneaky Stabbing. His melee attack would be over 100, which is insane, but more importantly, his armor piercing damage would get an increase of 72. Because the spell buffs armor piercing damage by 18%, and 18% of 400 is going to be a lot higher than 18% of armor piercing of any other unit in the Greenskin roster. Now that's value for mana. There's not much more to be said about the giant. He punches through infantry, he hates arrows, does below par against good cavalry, and scares all his enemies. Keep him on the flanks, supported by cavalry, and enjoy the carnage as he plows through the enemy backlines and most likely wins you the match. Hope you guys enjoyed this unit review. If you guys want to see more of this sort of content, then let me know, and hit the like button if you did like it, and subscribe for more. Peace.